Hello and welcome back to another GCSE revision video. Now, if you've been following First Rate Tutors for long enough, you will know that we have helped hundreds of GCSE students go from struggling with 2s and 3s to getting grades 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s in the final GCSE English Language Paper 1 and Paper 2 exams, as well as their English Literature Paper 1 and Paper 2 exams through our weekly Sunday GCSE masterclasses, where at 5 to 6 p.m. we literally answer in 4-mark questions, language paper 1 and paper 2 past paper questions. But also, of course, we've done this through YouTube and TikTok. Now, what I want to do within this lesson is to actually tackle one of the things and one of the common issues that I see students consistently doing, yet they don't recognize, which is when they're given an insert or two different inserts in paper 1 and paper 2, and they are looking and picking out quotations. Okay, so they start off really well based on the question that they're looking at. They select a quotation and then they write loads and they think they are analyzing, but actually in reality what they're doing is describing what is happening in the text. Okay, so in other words, lots of students literally spend all of this time looking at the insert, picking out quotations and then saying, oh, this quotation shows me that Mary feels like this and Mary feels like that, and the writer is telling me that this person feels like this and this is what's happened. And they go directly into descriptive territory and they don't know how to bring it back and how to take it to analysis, which is literally what determines whether a student is stuck in grade 2 and 3 hell, or if they start rising, they start getting the 4s, 5s, and if they start really fine-tuning the analysis, getting 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s. So what I want to do within this lesson, guys, is to show you exactly how to analyze and the top 5 analytical terms and words you can use immediately that takes you from describing what's going on in the text, which is literally what a lot of students do. They think they're analyzing, but they're not. So you use these terms and you go from describing what's happening to actually analyzing, because every single time you select these words, you actually have to initially ask yourself, okay, when I use this term, is this actually what's happening in the text? If I use this other term, is this what's actually happening? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the top analysis terms that you can use in any text, and also not only what they mean, but how you can apply them when you see specific words and phrases within a text. And don't forget, guys, especially if you want more than this, right? So maybe if you want to see how to apply this and how to apply these terms to actual past language paper 1 and paper 2 exams, that is precisely why I have designed my GCSE Sunday masterclasses for this. Okay, it's exactly this that I focus on doing and showing my students application, how they actually apply this to actual 2024, 2023, 2022 past paper exams. Okay, in fact, we've actually already looked at the 2024 GCSE Language Paper 1 and Paper 2 exams. We are going to be literally applying this to all AQA past paper questions. Okay, so make sure you sign up if you want to see, and you also want to have your own copy of grade 9 model answers that you can revise from and see how we apply this. Let's look at analysis. This is actually how you shift and how you move yourself from what most GCSE students tend to do, and this is what keeps them stuck at 2s, 3s, 4s and 5s, to actually using language that shows you are analyzing. Now, when it comes to analysis, I want to first highlight the following point, okay? Always remember that you must use, this is how you show you're analyzing, you must use analytical verbs in your explanation. When I mention explanation, I always follow a really specific paragraph structure in my answers, which is the PIL, point, evidence, explanation, link. Now, in the third step, which is where the marks reside, this is where these words go. This is the explanation, okay? Now, the other thing that I want you guys to really pay attention to and to stop doing is, number 1, stop describing what's going on in the text, and also number 2, stop saying and using basic language and terminology by saying the writer says this, the writer shows this. Instead, here are the top 5 analysis terms, what they mean, and Remember this because you then ask yourself this question when you look at different inserts. Remember that you can't use any of these words just like that, willy-nilly. You need to understand why we use them. Then when you look at an insert or two extracts based on which paper you're looking at, you can then ask yourself these questions and then say, oh, I think this is what the writer is doing, so I'm going to use this analysis term instead, okay? So the first word to use instead, which now firmly starts moving you up in grades, okay? You do this in your explanation when you're analyzing, is you want to talk about how the writer evokes. Use the word the writer evokes, okay? And the word evokes simply means the writer brings about a strong feeling or idea based on the language that they use in the text. Now, this word is really powerful because this is such a great term to use. It's brilliant when you say how the writer affects our feelings as readers, okay? So when you say the writer evokes, not only are you talking about the writer intent, but you're also simultaneously talking about how we as readers feel, okay? So when you're reading through a text, ask yourself, okay, is there any powerful language that's being used? Okay, there is powerful language. How am I feeling? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling moody? Am I feeling really happy? Am I feeling excited? And once you do that, and once you get to that answer, you then say how the writer evokes these feelings. That's your first word. The second term to use when you are analyzing, this shows you're analyzing rather than describing, is insinuates, okay? And make sure you spell these words correctly. Now, when it comes to insinuates, this is what it means, and this is what you should be asking yourself when you're reading an insert. Insinuate simply means making a vague suggestion beyond the obvious meaning. For example, the word red, the obvious meaning of the word red is just it's a color. However, what's insinuated is danger, death, and so on. Now, this word, this analytical term is amazing when you spot any type of imagery and color. Talk about how the writer evokes. The third term is how the writer reiterates, and reiterate simply means when the writer repeats the same feeling, idea, or point, or even just repeats the same character and so on. Use the word reiterate. And this word is amazing when pointing out repetition. If you see anything that's repeated, say the writer reiterates, add the quotation, and then talk about why they reiterate, okay? Now, the fourth term is mirrors, okay? And what this simply means, again, when you're reading a text, ask yourself, hang on, is there an object or an animal or a character that's being used? And some of this, its aspects, the way it's described, the way where it is somewhat, I can see some of that being reflected in something else that's described in the text. That is mirroring. And this is great if you see a person or thing that reflects something else in the text. And the fifth term to use that shows you are analyzing, not describing, is if the writer foreshadows. Now, this is such an amazing technique, and this one actually travels between language and literature. In fact, to be honest, all of these terms you can use either for language, paper 1 and paper 2, or for literature, paper 1 and paper 2, regardless of your syllabus. Now, with this one, foreshadows, what this simply means is hinting at later events that follow. Now, with language paper 1 or language paper 2, what you want to look for and ask yourself when you're reading the text and even go back to the text is something in paragraph 1 and 2, the event or whatever that happens there, is it actually repeated in the final paragraph or the last two paragraphs? If it is, there's a circular structure within that. What that therefore means is the writer initially at the beginning has foreshadowed what happens later. So this is excellent, in other words, in circular text or text with a circular structure. Again, guys, if you want to see how I apply this and how to apply this and how to go from description, right, to actually application, how to use these cleverly in essays that are going to get you that 6, 7, 8, or 9 in your GCSE language paper 1 and paper 2 exams, make sure you join in my Sunday 5 to 6 p.m. masterclasses where we literally write model answers to actual past paper exams. We even go as far as reviewing the mark scheme, okay? So I always annotate the mark scheme with for my students. And then after we go over the model answer, I say, okay, this is a grade 9 precisely because of this, this, and that. And my students not only have the mark scheme, and this is a mark scheme with annotations from me saying this is exactly what examiners are looking for, but of course they also have the model answer and it's typed, and they can take it away and revise from it and see how to apply all of these terms in their answers. So thanks so much for listening.